Did you feel it? That weird electric silence at Soldier Field when the scoreboard stopped agreeing with what your ears told you? The Bears came out with a steamroller first act, then spent the rest of the afternoon surviving the kind of pressure that teaches teams who they really are. When the final whistle blew, Chicago had done the thing it's been inching toward all season. A 31-28 win over Pittsburgh, a fourth straight victory, and a glossy new record to show for it. 8-3, and sitting nice in the NFC North, while Aaron Rodgers watched from the sideline because of that wrist injury everyone's been whispering about. Reuters Live. This game felt like two different stories stitched together. In the first act, Caleb Williams was the quarterback you expect to turn up in the big moments. 3 touchdown passes, poise under heat, and enough calm to make a 90,000-seat building pretend it wasn't fraying at the edges. He didn't play a perfect game. He played the kind of controlled, aggressive game that gives you a chance. When the Bears needed chunk plays, they showed up, and when they needed to shorten the game, the defense got those stops. That balance is what carried them across the finish line. ChicagoBears.com. But let's not pretend the Steelers made it easy. Mason Rudolph walked in like a man who'd been told the GPS was malfunctioning and still found his way downfield. A long, frustrating 17-play drive late in the fourth that pulled Pittsburgh within 3, and a final heave that nearly answered the bell. Rudolph's day wasn't spotless. Turnovers and a couple of missed opportunities haunted the drive chart. But the late surge felt like a team refusing to cancel the rest of the season's plans because their starter was out. That stubbornness nearly rewrote the ending. Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's the thing about momentum in this league. It's a petty, fickle friend. The Bears' defense started the season with question marks and injuries, and somehow turned next man up into a movie. They lost starters, they reset personnel, and they still found ways to make those clutch plays late. 2 takeaways that the offense converted for 14 points, for example. When your defense can create turnovers at the exact moments the offense needs them, you don't just win games, you buy young players some breathing room to grow. That's been Chicago's secret sauces this month. ChicagoBears.com. Offenses win headlines, trenches win seasons. The Bears didn't obliterate the Steelers in yards or time of possession, but they found situational football, 4th down stops, short yardage defense, timely completions, and turned them into scoreboard currency. It's the kind of ugly, necessary football champions use to get through November. Caleb threw for 3 TDs, yes, but the script around him, the rush lanes opened by a suddenly disciplined line, the 3rd down defense stepping up, turned those throws into enough. When your quarterback has to grind instead of soar, having a defense that feels like a guardian angel matters more than any highlight reel. ChicagoBears.com. If you're a Bears fan, tonight's win feels like an argument you can make to yourself. This team can win ugly, and winning ugly is sometimes the only kind of winning available in December. If you're a skeptic, and those are the same people who clutched their chests when the Bears' early season schedule looked soft, tonight gives you a data point that matters. They didn't merely check the box. They navigated chaos, injuries, and a hot backup who refused to die quietly. That resilience counts when the schedule gets harder. Windy City Gridiron. But here's the sharp edge. The next few weeks aren't kindness. The Bears get pushed into the deep water of elite opposition now. A Black Friday showdown with the Eagles, their 2 meetings with the rival Packers, and games against the 49ers and Lions that will tell you exactly how deep this team's mettle goes. Winning against a Pittsburgh team missing Aaron Rodgers is a necessary step. Turning that into consistent performance against top-tier defenses and playoff-quality offenses is a whole different test. The roster's depth will be bared, and the Bears' answers will have to be as repeatable as they are dramatic. ChicagoBears.com. Let's talk temperament for a minute. Because that's the thing analytics don't measure. Caleb Williams has the look of a quarterback who's learning how to absorb heat without melting. He made throws when the windows were narrow, took responsibility for the plays that went sideways, and didn't let the crowd's nervousness become his. That emotional steadiness is contagious. It rubs off in practice, it changes the tenor of the locker room, and it makes coaches trust him on the field in January. Teams that make a leap don't always do it because they suddenly get better players. They do it because the players they have stop making panic-driven decisions. Williams showed signs of that tonight, desired, chicagobears.com. There's also a cautionary note for Pittsburgh. Depth matters, and long-term plans don't survive contact without it. Rodgers being sidelined exposed the seams. Rudolph is a professional and gave the team life. But being a backup in real time is different from being the long-term answer. The Steelers' run game found some life, but turnovers and a defense that bent at times cost them late. This loss doesn't doom their season, but it demands answers on consistency and roster construction, answers they'll have to find while other teams are scheming to exploit any perceived weakness. If you want the final image to carry home, picture a stadium that believed it was watching a beatdown, then had to watch itself admit a more complicated truth, that football is a thing of inches, momentum swings, and tiny acts repeated hundreds of times each week. For the Bears, tonight was a merciful kind of lesson. They can win the way contests in December are actually won, with noise, grit, and a defense that refuses to back down. For the Steelers, it was a reminder that contingency plans must be more than slogans. They must be rostered, rehearsed, and ready. So what's the bottom line? Celebrate the record. Savor the feeling that Caleb and this defense are building something. But don't confuse November optimism with season proof. The months ahead will separate hopeful stories from legitimate contenders. And for Chicago, the real question now is whether tonight's resilience becomes a habit or just a highlight. You ever watch a team quietly build a mood and then wake up in November with the league asking, wait, who are they? That's the Bears right now. Ben Johnson's crew strolls into Week 12 with an 8-3 record, a second-year quarterback who looks eerily less fragile than last season's tape suggested, and a defense that still gives you heartburn, which somehow is exactly the mix that makes them dangerous. Caleb Williams didn't just manage Sunday. He delivered. 19 of 35, 239 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, the kind of box score that says game manager and difference maker at the same time. He took only 1 sack, which feels like a full paragraph of progress when you remember the rookie who was sacked 68 times last year. This season, 17 sacks through 11 games. That's not luck. That's structure, coaching, pocket awareness, and growth under a coordinator who knows how to protect a young asset. But don't get cute. Motivation and matchup matter. The Bears' gauntlet so far has been forgiving. Their 7-game tier before Sunday came against teams that were frankly below the playoff line. The Steelers without Aaron Rodgers is not the same test as Philly on Black Friday or a back-to-back against the Packers and 49ers later in the schedule, which is why you pair optimism with a checklist. Can Caleb keep the ball safer? Can the offensive line hold up when pressure games are coming? Can the defense stop being feast or famine? Sunday was a perfect case study in those questions. Chicago's offense put up 31 points, but the freeway to the end zone had potholes. 2 turnovers off a ball-hawking Pittsburgh unit kept the game closer than it maybe needed to be, and Rudolph's dink and dunk method kept the Steelers in the fight. Pittsburgh finished with 186 rushing yards at 5.2 yards per carry. That's not a fluke. That's a reminder that when your box score reads, "We force turnovers and road chunk plays," you still can't ignore the opponent who moves the chains methodically. The Bears' offense sits 4th in the league, entering Sunday at 378.7 yards per game, explosive on paper. Against Pittsburgh, they slipped to 325 yards, largely because the defense gave the other team a few extra chances. Yet the offense did what winning teams have to do: score when they needed to. 4 touchdown drives, and Williams avoided catastrophic mistakes. That's called closing the deal, and for a young quarterback, it buys patience. Defensively, though, the report card reads messy. Ranked around the late 20s in yards allowed, Chicago can paper over holes by forcing turnovers, and they do. They lead the league in takeaways with 24, and that's real production.